Good. All right. Ready? Okay. Good evening, board members and residents. I'd like to call to order our regular board meeting for Monday, March 24th, 2025. I would ask that everyone present please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Selgott, will you please take the roll call?
Mr. Badkins?
Here.
Mr. Brado?
Here.
Mrs. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Olgiati?
Here.
Mr. Tominello?
Here.
Mr. Witt, excuse, Mr. Verkest?
Here. And I believe a motion to appoint Ms. Selgott as the acting clerk would be in order.
I'll make that motion.
Support. All right. Motion by Mr. Tominello with support by Mr. Olgiati. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Board. Next is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes approval of the regular board meeting minutes of March 10th, 2025, approval of the bills in the amount of $1,433,340.51, approval of the February 2025 revenue and expenditure report, reappointment of 3 ordinance officers for Lake St. Clair Metro Park, approval of the Gabriel, Roeder, and Smith invoices related to the 2024 audit, and election equipment annual maintenance agreement. Unless there are any changes, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved. Support.
All right, got a motion by Mr. Badkins with support by Mr. Brado. Discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Board. Next on our agenda is the approval of the regular agenda. Board members, we did discuss switching items G1 and G4. Otherwise, I believe the agenda as proposed is good, so I'll be looking for a motion to approve the agenda with the minor revision.
I'll make that motion.
All right. Is there support?
Support.
All right. We've got a motion by Mr. Olgiati with support by Ms. Brown. Mrs. Brown, discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Board. Next on the agenda, item C, announcements. Everyone is invited to join our Harrison Township firefighters, Local 1737, for their annual Easter egg hunt on Saturday, April 5th. For all of the event information, you can visit the township website or call 586-466-1450. Our Township Beautification Commission will be hosting their annual community cleanup on Saturday, April 12th from 9 a.m. to noon. I think it's an Earth Day related event. Something that's needed every spring. For all the event details, you can visit the township website or call 586-242-3868 for more information. Bridge replacement work on the South River Road Bridge east of Lakeshore Drive over the channel between the Clinton River to Lake St. Clair has started and is expected to last through August of 2025. South River Road will remain open to traffic. A temporary bridge structure will be put into place on the south side of that bridge. For more information, you can visit the Macomb County website under the Roads tab. And as always, for more information on these as well as all other township events, you can call the supervisor's office 586-466-1445. Visit our website, www.harrisontownshipmi.gov, or follow us on X at HarrisonTWPMI. Does any board member have any further announcements?
I do.
Okay.
The Parks and Rec is hosting a family bowling event on April 5th, and that will be at Total Sports. We do need those that are participating to register in advance so we can make sure we have enough lanes. It's $3 per person, and you can pay at the Township Treasurer's office.
Okay,
What time is it, Mrs. Brown?
Oh, it is from 1 PM to 3 PM, April 5th, and that includes 2 to 3 games of bowling, shoes, and pizza and pop.
all right, awesome.
That's the same day as the Easter egg hunt, correct?
Correct. It's after.
It's afterwards, okay,
So you
perfect.
could have a whole.
Whole day of
yeah,
fun.
whole day of fun here in Harrison Township.
Good. Find some eggs, knock down some pins. All right, good. Any other announcements? Hearing none, I would like to invite to the podium Mrs. Barb Zinner, our county commissioner, for an update on what's happening at Macomb County.
Hi, everyone. I was going to mention about the South River bridge, that bridge that's being started. They're already in the works. There are a lot of road projects and bridge projects that the county's working on. I had mentioned that before. So some of the citizens, if they don't live in that area, they're not really aware of it. I know it's been in the news. But we're going to have meetings the first week of April for anyone who wants to check on that. All kinds of things are going on, just busy as always. I do have a quick thing just to say, especially with the fire chief here. I was thinking about calling him about this. I had extra sheets I was going to get rid of, but will be getting rid of, and I pushed him to another room, another bedroom I have where my granddaughter had come to stay. And I put a night light in there. It's an older switch with the switch on the outside of it. And as I pushed that in there, she was already gone, of course, and was cleaning and doing things. And I had the windows open. It was a warmer day, not like the last few days. And not thinking, didn't realize, came back upstairs to close the windows because it was airy and nice. And there was a peculiar smell. And I was going around the house upstairs and said, maybe it's outside. So I had to track the smell because it was still going on. And I went to this bedroom. I said, there's nothing wrong in here. And then I kept smelling. And when I pushed the sheets in there in the container, it had turned on that nightlight. Of course, you know about that, Chief, I'm sure. And there was a dark hole in the sheet, black. And I looked at and I turned it off right away, and I looked at on the wall. I couldn't even touch the top of the area. And it was light brown, it was dark brown there, it was light brown on the wall. I've never seen that before, I've never encountered that. But I never heard the click, nothing. So and I don't normally have a switch like that, so I just want to let the citizens know that something so simple as that. So I pulled that thing out and threw it away. Anyway, just to make people aware, little things like that you don't realize could have been a real situation, and I thank the Lord he was there to take care of it for me.
I think there was an angel looking out for you. I think I know his name. All right. Thank you for that update. At this point, we'll move forward in our agenda. Item D1 from our fire department regarding Ready Rebound. Chief, if it's okay, I'll read the introduction. So Ready Rebound provides a physician-specific network for its members, which has proven to expedite the injury recovery time for employees who are injured both at and away from work. We are requesting approval of a 3-year contract with Ready Rebound for both fire and water sewer departments. The pricing is guaranteed with a 3-year contract. It can be canceled after 1 year without penalty. The fire and the water sewer departments will pay their department fees separately. We do have representatives from Ready Rebound here. They've prepared a short presentation to further define and explain their services. This is specific to what I'll say we have 10 field personnel in our water and sewer department, and I believe it's a total of 29 for the fire department. And the best way that I can explain this is, this fall, Aiden Hutchison was injured, Detroit Lion, just an exceptional member of the team. And I think we all accept the fact that we expect, I guess, for lack of a better word, an above average level of care. Like, we'd like to think that the best doctors are addressing this and all of the best, medical professionals are involved in making sure that this, highly talented athlete is back in service. Well, the reality is, not only do our firefighters and our field personnel in the water and sewer department, face challenges and face injuries potentially while at work, but the reality is when they're out, it incurs costs for us. So Ready Rebound, I think, is a concept modeled after that athletic concept to say, let's make sure that when someone is injured, that they get the attention they need, they get in front of the doctors and professionals necessary to get them back in service as soon as possible, which ultimately results in a reduced amount of insurance costs and overtime to backfill those positions. We did run this by our workman's comp carrier, and they were intrigued by the concept. They like it. They don't have a lot of experience with it, but they gave it the green light. So with that, I'll turn it over to the folks who are here to offer up their presentation.
All right. Thank you all for having us here. I'm Alec Wands, and this is
Matt Stoll.
awesome. So you did a really great job recapping the service. I don't know.
Well, you taught me.
I just said it, but you kind of said there. It's pretty much how do you treat first responders like professional athletes when they're injured? Kind of see it right now, whether it's in college or professional sports. What happens when an athlete gets injured? Athletic trainers run out onto the field, and they're just trying to assess, is the player out for the play, quarter, game, series, whatever it is, and then take them under the tunnel to get evaluated, get imaging, so within 20 minutes we know if they're a go or a no-go or if they're out for the season. That's all we're trying to get to with our first responders is a definitive diagnosis, then get them to the appropriate specialist in that amount of time. Sometimes what we see is almost like the fail first method when someone gets injured. It's what happens. Let's do 6 to 8 weeks of PT before you see your primary. We might have to get an MRI and see a specialist. So sometimes we're 2 to 3 months in when we figured out we've needed surgery all along on something that we've been trying to rehab with PT. So really just our whole goal is how do you get someone in within the first 24 to 48 hours to that appropriate specialist, whether it's knee, back, shoulder, whatever it is, and have a definitive diagnosis within 72 hours so we know what the problem is. If it's surgical, how are we getting them surgery within the same week or next week? If it's not, getting them on the appropriate path to PT, you can be more aggressive with it. And the service is not just available to all first responders, whether they're injured on duty or off duty. We help with both since it still impacts the service they can provide community and community safety. The service is also available for free for all family members, retirees, and the administrative staff of the departments too. So if their kid gets hurt playing soccer on a Saturday, you can call right away and we can Monday, Tuesday as well. So it's really almost like the Disney Fast Pass to helping first responders, if you will.
Sure. And I think, and I feel like when we first heard this concept, that secondary part of it sort of at first threw me off. But I think the acknowledgement is that there's a service that this service provider offers to be able to try to make sure that we don't waste time getting the appropriate care. And for probably every time that, somebody's son or daughter is injured at soccer, there's a number of more higher profile injuries that might occur within, say, that fire department. So the likelihood of somebody being injured on a fire scene or, handling, carrying someone out, things like that, sprains, those kinds of things, that's really what we're after. And really the goal here is, well, on one side, I can understand that, say, a professional sports team says, listen, this person is going to make or break our, defense, and we need to get them back in the game so that we have a shot at the Super Bowl. In our case, it's really truly kind of a financial situation. If somebody's out on that delay, we're incurring costs not only from overtime, that person's not not serving, God forbid they heal the wrong way or the right treatment isn't scheduled, we're going backward. The reality is if we do approve this, I hope we go 3 years and never use the service once. But the likelihood is that we would, and the hope would be that there would be a payback on that investment. Does the board have any questions on the concept?
How, so let's say someone gets injured, firefighter on the job. We call you, you then kind of take over, are you setting appointments? Are you, I know with specialists right now, the wait time is incredibly long. Is this ensuring that our staff are getting in sooner, or kind of explain that piece for
Yeah,
me?
so it's easy because we were in a conference in Orlando, which is obviously where Disney is and stuff in January. And some of the chiefs are like, oh, so it's kind of just like a Disney Fast Pass. It really is. Part of the mission is us, when a member calls us when they're injured, is we're working along Meadowbrook, which is a TPA, we're working along the city to be able to help coordinate everything for the injured athlete. We're setting all their appointments, whether it's MRI, whether it's PT, whether it's surgery, whatever it is. Then from that point, that navigator, who they call, is booking all their appointments, and they stay with them through the entire time. So they're calling them, texting them, checking in. And then through that, there's a whole separate provider partner team who goes out and vets all the different PTs and doctors and imaging clinics. And they agree to be able to give the Disney Fast Pass. So calling and getting them in that same day, next day. So it is the access to care in a lot quicker ways possible.
Okay.
Are you affiliated with one particular, like Ascension or Corwell or McLaren, or do you guys work with amongst multiple hospitals?
So we work with not whole groups, but individual providers. We're just here to pick the best of the best
Okay.
at that point in time. It's not like there's one group that you're contracted with, because that's part of the problem, the stuff there is going through the system, but how do we work with the best providers in the region? So, for example, we start with the caliber of the Detroit Lions staff and then kind of fan out from there.
And to expound a little bit on it, as you kind of like imagine this, a lot of times, there's no guarantees, but frequently, an on-the-job injury, this is a workers' comp kind of a case, if you're a, medical service provider, those are above average type claims, right? So, in the medical field, you might see someone and say, well, I'm only going to get paid this much because they have this level insurance. Other cases, we know, automobile insurance reform, they were like, wow, this is the best case ever because they pay an unlimited amount and everything in between. These are generally from a service provider's perspective, that workers' comp case is generally a pretty good case. It's going to be paid. It's going to be paid at, a decent rate. And so this is a process of not only isolating above average medical professionals, but also steering, good or bad, above average claims to someone that says, well, I will go out of my way to make room for this individual on my calendar because I understand that the relationship they have with this service provider is going to funnel a certain number of cases. We talked about in earlier conversations before we put it on the agenda, how if someone isn't providing that, that attention, that willingness to flex their schedule, maybe we don't want them on our list of preferred providers because they're not giving us that access to their time. Let's face it, we all have that choice. When someone comes at the door at 4:59, you can flip over to I'm closed sign, or you can say, come on in and I'll stay around a little later. And this is kind of like our ticket to that access, as I see it anyways.
It's spot on, and also with the access component, just the fees. So our fee is only through township. We actually are not getting fees from the providers itself, which allows us to be agnostic. So it is really about those SLAs, proper service that those injured firefighters, first responders are getting. It's all about that access. And then when Alec also mentioned navigators, those are the folks that answer our 1-800 number that staff 24/7, 365. Those are all former licensed athletic trainers. So when you're calling in, you're not just getting someone that's answering the phone, you're actually getting someone that's triage and diagnose the injury that has an entire experience.
So this is experimental. This could, again, as I said, I would love to be able to say we don't need it because we won't have any injuries in the next 3 years. But that's what insurance is for. This is kind of a layer of insurance. I believe there's one other municipality in the Metro Detroit area that's employed the services of Ready Rebound. In other parts of the country, you have wide coverage. It's kind of new to the Metro Detroit area. I think it's worth, I don't know if I'd call it taking a gamble. I think it's the opposite. I think it's worth employing their services on a 3-year basis. We can opt out after a year to see if this can truly make a difference. I think 1 or 2 claims over a 3-year period might very well pay for itself. So, any other questions, discussions?
On the terms and conditions that it references in the proposal, under termination, it says it cannot be terminated. unless there is a legal valid cause, no termination for convenience. And I don't see anything in here about insurance and what. I do see some protection for the individuals here if something happens to one of our firefighters or somebody working for us, misdiagnosed or whatever. Where's that information? It's not listed in your terms and conditions.
So we do, and the group is covered under our COI, so if there's further information you need that's outside the terms. that can be
Certainly do
provided.
need to know what your coverage is.
Yeah.
Before I'll vote on it. So I went through your terms and conditions, and I have a couple other issues with them, so I would like to see some insurance. I don't know where the other board members are, but that's my personal opinion. I think it's a good idea. I've seen it, and how you integrate with the workman's comp individual. I think Ms. Brown had asked a question. Have we talked to our comp carrier?
We did.
And they're okay?
Yep, so initially, when the chief first brought it to me and before, so Adam, Larry, and I did meet with the chief and Ready Rebound. When the chief brought it, I think it was after a staff meeting, we talked about it, I said, well, for starters, like we did two things before we even met with Ready Rebound. Number one was we reached out to the comp carrier, and they said this is kind of a new concept to us because this is MML, so they're not a nationwide comp carrier, they're specific to Michigan. And they said it's new to us. I actually met with our loss analysis individual on last Monday, so a week ago this morning. Talked to him. He said, I think I believe he's a retired fire chief. Frank is. Police chief, okay. And he said, I like the idea. It's really interesting. I'm really curious to see how it works. And he said the same as me. You know, I hope you have no reason to use it in the next 3 years, but if you do, we're very anxious to see how it works. So we did check with them. Number two, we checked with our current insurance broker to see if, well, hey, as much as they're offering this for this rate, other service providers can say you can get a carrier, added on or a rider for a fraction of the cost. So our current insurance providers do not offer a parallel product. So workers' comp was okay with it. They're curious. They're definitely not opposed to it. The reality is it should save them money as well. Mm-hmm. And if it does save them money, that comes back on our experience rating and would ultimately save us money on our workers' comp renewals. I know that during this process, the chief had reached out to me and said, are there going to be any concerns with the terms on here? So I took the liberty of forwarding this to Mr. Huth well before it went on the board packet so that he might look it over. And I did propose that if we're in agreement with the concept, that we might consider approval of this subject to Mr. Huth's approval. In other words, if he's satisfied with those terms, would be, in other words, I guess I would say, like, as you said, well, I don't know, I'd like to see those terms first, and with all due respect, I'd like to see Mr. Huth see those terms first, and if he's in agreement with them, would we be willing to take action based on that? So, Mr. Huth, I don't know if you...
I would think that it'd be appropriate to consider a motion subject to final approval by the township attorney.
Sure. But I feel like a valid question was proposed by Mr. Badkins, and that was, our understanding was we did have kind of an opt-out, but these terms didn't reflect that. So if we were to make a motion saying that we would approve this subject to an opt-out after, I'm going to go back and see what it says.
You do have it in there, and I think so the terminations for convenience language versus what the 3-year agreement.
Okay.
So the way that the billing structure works for the 3 years, it's 12 months in advance, just like a normal subscription service usually routinely is.
Okay.
That after the first payment, that is your first 12 months, and then you can opt out after that.
Gotcha.
So you can terminate the agreement at any point after that first term of the 12 months, but the intent for the 3 years is to show you what the budget price would be for year 2 and year.
Okay. And I feel like, and Mr. Huth, correct me if I'm wrong, we could incorporate that 1-year opt-out provision in the motion, right? So that if that wasn't subject to the terms you saw, we'd be in a position to not move forward.
And he's correct. I mean, the backup provides the 3 separate invoices on the 1-year anniversary for the payment.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
No, I mean, I would like to know, once you go through this, Mr. Huth, is there any way that you could forward me your markups on this? Just looking at the professional services, I mean, typically, somebody that's taking ownership and somebody that's been injured has some type of coverage that protects the person that they're working on, is that correct?
And then, just to be clear too, from what we're doing, it's a Navigator and concierge service. We're not actually seeing the patient themselves.
But you're talking to them, you have professional, I think you said trainers, that are evaluating people over the phone.
No, they're not,
Did I misunderstand you?
Yeah, they're not providing any medical service.
we're not providing medical service.
What are they doing over the phone?
We're getting them to the right specialist.
To the right specialist, so it's not
It's not nurse case management.
okay. I misunderstood the service. I still have an issue with the terms and conditions. Anytime you've got to go to a link to get these terms and conditions, I would like to see them reviewed actually before we,
Yeah, and I believe we can do that. I believe we can review those terms and conditions. And again, this is a service provider who might be new in the Metro Detroit area, but is currently providing these, and I don't know, maybe you can speak
Yeah.
to
So
the
we have-
quantity of clients that might be our peers in the rest of the country.
Yeah, so we have over 370 partners across the entire country, ranging from groups of 3 to 4 in their total coverage, all the way up to 12,000. So you can imagine, large, small, kind of everyone in between facing a similar challenge. So as you mentioned, newer to the greater Metro Detroit area, but in 19 states across the country, working with, over 20 different insurance and TPA type groups. So again, very system agnostic, more than happy to address any specific concerns or items on the terms and conditions as you guys have moved through it. So that standpoint, the online access link is for folks to be able to reference, but as when we would sign the agreement, there is a printed set of terms that would be applicable.
okay.
All right. Any other questions, discussion? If not, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to enter into an agreement with, help me out with the name,
Ready, rebound?
Ready Rebound, upon approval by Township Council on the terms and conditions under the master subscription agreement to ensure that the township is protected, any liability that might be bestowed upon us.
I'm just going to add to that for a 3-year term that may be terminated after each 1-year anniversary.
Okay. All right, all right. I know you'll capture that when you play it back, but does everybody understand the motion? Is there support?
I'll support the motion.
All right, we've got a motion by Mr. Badkins with support by Mr. Olgiati. We had some discussion. Is there further discussion or questions by the board?
I think anything that benefits our employees is a good thing. When I read certain things, I'm not an attorney, even worse, I'm in construction, so I deal with contracts. So I see certain things and probably a little different, and that's why we have our attorney, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you for the time.
And you're still on point here, Chief, because next item is item D2. Board members, the March 19th, 2025 retirement of Battalion Chief Jason Groth has resulted in the need for 4 Harrison Township Fire Department employees to be promoted. The 4 employees eligible for promotion are Lieutenant Zarnicki to Battalion Chief, Sergeant Belinsky to Lieutenant, Engineer Solani to Sergeant, and Firefighter Panchek to Engineer, effective March 19th, 2025. The March 29th retirement of Battalion Chief Jason Groth is a loss for the township, for sure. But in his typical humble fashion, he didn't want any attention, but the underlying cause of this is, I think, the loss of a member for 29 years of service. Is that right, Chief? would have made 29 years. But a very humble guy who would give himself up for anybody, but when it's talking about himself, he's going to disappear. So while that's a loss, we feel it's appropriate that these promotions do occur as a part of the collective bargaining agreement, but historically, we've recorded them by board action. And so the proposed motion is to approve the promotions of Lieutenant Zarnicki, Sergeant Belinsky, and Engineer Selene, and Firefighter Panchek, effective March 19th, 2025. Is there a motion?
So moved.
All right, is there support?
Support.
All right, is that Mr. Badkins?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Got a motion with support. Any discussion? Hearing none and
Excuse
seeing.
me, he's left us in really good hands.
For
I
sure.
think that's attributed to the chief and all what he's done since he's been here. I feel very comfortable that these changes are,
Every one of those individuals are more than prepared. You know, he did a fantastic job with mentoring, Lieutenant Sarnicki. He's become an excellent companion.
yeah.
Mhm.
No. Sorry about the interruption there.
No, that's all right. Any other discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next on our agenda, thank you, Chief, and thank you to all 5 of those gentlemen for their service. Next on the agenda is item E1 from the Treasurer's Office. Mr. Tominello.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Board, our current township advanced gateway security suite software, our firewall license, including our antivirus and anti-spyware software, is at end of life and needs to be updated. Last time the gateway or the firewall was upgraded was 2022. In 2022, 3-year term licensing was available. The cost back in 2022 was $9,000 for a 3-year contract. In 2022, the cost of a 3-year licensing for, that $9,000 was for our admin server, that's our main server. And then in 2022, the cost of a 3-year license for Fire Station 1, Fire Station 2, Water and Sewer, and Senior Center was $2,100 each. Now the minimum term offered for the gateway.
Maximum. Sorry.
Yeah, $2,100. Now the maximum term offered for the gateway licensing is 2 years. 3 years is no longer available due to the rapid and ever-changing environment. So our admin server is the most costly. The cost of a 2-year license tied to the loyalty program, which we're a part of, is $6,925, and that includes new hardware in the price of the license. For Fire Station 1, Fire Station 2, Water and Sewer, and Senior Center gateways require just a license upgrade and no hardware, and the cost for each site for 2 years is $17,250. A total cost to upgrade our gateway licensing software and hardware across all of our buildings is $13,825.50. I'd be looking for a motion to approve that amount to upgrade our security software firewall.
All right, is there a discussion or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the upgrade gateway for $13,825.50.
All right, is there support? Support. All right, we've got a motion by Mr. Badkins with support by Mr. Brado. I feel like this is one of these things that we're stuck doing. There's some bad players all around the world that make it necessary, but I don't know that we have much of a choice. Any other discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Board. Next on the agenda, item F1. If you'd like, I can handle that, or do you want to handle it? You got it?
Sure, I can.
Okay, good.
The clerk's office has received a request from applicants, licensees, Bumpers Landing Boat Club LLC to transfer ownership of 2024 Class C and SDM license with Sunday sales permit, PM, entertainment permit, specific purpose permit, food, outdoor service area, and 2 bars from Metri's Cruise Inn. They also would like a new Sunday sales permit AM and Sunday sales permit PM, SDM, mixed spirit drink to Bumpers Landing, LLC, 31988 North River Road, Harrison Township. All of the necessary paperwork and approvals except for the certificate of occupancy relative to the liquor license process have been completed and is in order.
All right, so we've got a liquor license transfer. The deputy clerk has kind of explained what's being proposed, and the recommendation is to approve the transfer of this liquor license. Is there any discussion, questions, or a motion?
Can you educate me on the new Sunday sales permit and Sunday sales permit PM? Is it, when it says new, is it part of the transfer?
They added a new one. They added that on top of it, on
Okay.
top of the transfer.
Okay, so there's nothing else required. They did the paperwork for that.
Yes.
Brian, that's mostly done through the MLCC.
Pardon me?
Michigan Liquor Control Commission, they're the ones that investigate it. They do all the licensing for those
Okay.
sort of things. So you have to apply through the Michigan Liquor Control Commission, and then they come back to the township and let them know that they've approved, they've done the necessary paperwork.
Okay.
Fairly thorough process.
It's pretty much, when it gets to this particular point, it's pretty much cut and dry.
Kind of a rubber stamp on our part. A lot of the legwork, hard lifting, research, that sort of thing's already been done. And I think I think there's a question on Sunday whether it's AM or PM. So I think the new is the AM license. I don't know if they had the AM license as I was reading it, but either way,
Yeah, that was
everything
just
is,
a
Yeah,
question.
yeah, everything before us has already been through. I think sheriff's office doesn't.
Sheriff's Office, Fire Department,
Yep.
yes, Building Department.
So, any other questions, discussion, or a motion?
And approving before certificate of occupancy is a normal. Obviously, they're still under construction and getting things ready.
Yep. There are still other steps they have to follow. Transfer this liquor license. Actually, I think I saw a social media post where Cruise Inn still has a few days that they're open, but this is
Okay.
kind of like make sure the paperwork is in order in advance of this. But yeah, I know there's some proposed construction on the site. There's still, a lot of other things that have to happen. This doesn't authorize those. This is just something that has to precede that.
Okay.
So, any other discussion, questions, or is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the liquor license transfer from Cruise Inn to Bumpers Landing Boat Club.
All right. Is there support?
Support.
All right, we've got a motion by Mr. Olgiati with support by Mr. Brado. Any,
We have to do a roll call.
this does
Is
take,
there-
yep, takes a roll call. Any other discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, Ms. Salgat, will you please take a roll call?
Mr. Badkins,
Yes.
Mr. Brado,
Yes.
Mrs. Brown,
Yes?
Mr. Olgialik.
Yes.
Mr. Tominello.
Yes.
Mr. Witt excused. Mr. Verkest.
Yes. Thank you, Board. All right, next on the agenda is item G1, originally listed as item G4 in the board packet. And that's page, I looked it up, 97, I think, since we're jumping ahead here.
Yes, 97.
97. Board members, Harrison Township went out for an advisory vote on November 3rd of 2009. This is an option that's no longer available to us. The question on the ballot was whether we should solicit bids for a single waste hauler for the township. The proposed question was approved 68 to 32%, pretty wide margin. We approved our first single waste hauler contract with Tringali for solid waste services in 2010 for 5 years. 5 years later, we went out for bids again, and Rizzo was the low bidder. Well, we have all benefited from this for the last 15 years. Prior to this, we had as many as 9 different trucks picking up waste on every street each week. This resulted in waste being placed at the curb almost every day of the week and excessive heavy truck traffic deteriorating our local roads. For the last 15 years, our residents have seen less traffic on their streets, less trash at the curb, and we've saved collectively over $17 million in waste collection costs while receiving additional services. I'm going to just interrupt myself here. when I prepared this agenda item, I really had to double check that number, but the cost that we were paying per home, and the level of service, has been radically different by going to a single waste hauler. And it's the reason why practically, as far as I know, every one of our neighboring communities also has gone with a single waste hauler. So I think we're certainly in the right spot with this. The current contract that we have is with Priority Waste, which is an extension of the prior contract with GFL, which is an extension of our original contract with Rizzo. This 10-year contract resulted in exceptional cost savings for many reasons. It was originally a 5-year contract with a 5-year extension. I believe that extension occurred during the very, very early part of COVID. And while we were surprised that GFL extended it, they did. Our current cost of $13.56 per month for trash collection is substantially below any of our neighboring communities. In 2015, Rizzo voluntarily offered curbside chipping services. None of our peers currently receive this service. Again, something we didn't ask for, but for the last 10 years, we had curbside chipping at quote-unquote no additional cost, and that 5-year extension gave us some really, really below market value pricing. This board voted to solicit bids for waste hauling services at our December 16th, 2025 board meeting. We knew it was highly unlikely that any waste hauler bids were going to be as low as our current cost based on recent bids solicited by our peer communities. It was also unlikely that curbside chipping would be an option since no one else is getting this service. Bids were received and opened March 6th, 2025, which are attached. 3 firms responded. Waste Management chose to submit a letter of no bid. Priority Waste and Tringali Sanitation offered bids. The cost for 3 services for residential waste hauling, including furniture and white goods pickup, along with township dumpster service for the next 5 years, $1,244.88 for Priority Waste, $1,404 for Tringali Sanitation. So with that, this board has the option to, in essence, continue with our current carrier for waste hauling services or move back to Tringali Sanitation. So I'll open up. I didn't make a recommendation. I felt like it was the will of the board to choose what waste hauler we might consider. And I believe there are representatives from each waste hauler here, so certainly it's, the board, if they choose, would like input from either of the bidders. I can see that the representatives available from each. I will say that I heard from a number of residents over the last, almost 9 months, that they were dissatisfied with the service from Priority. And a number of them said to me, I wish we could have Tringali back. It's worth noting that Mr. Tringali is a township resident. During the 5 years that his firm provides services, we had very, very little complaints. And I don't, as one board member, I don't believe the cost difference over the next 5 years is the single deciding factor that I would use to determine which waste hauler to use. It's interesting to note that during the 10 years that we didn't have Tringali, that contract was bought and sold 2 times. We had 3 different providers, and yet 15 years later, Tringali Sanitation is still offering these services. And based on our prior experience, I, for one, believe Tringali is the preferred choice before us this evening. But I'm interested to hear what other board members say or if they wish to hear from the service providers themselves.
I'd like to hear from the service providers personally.
Okay.
For whoever's here, whoever would like to speak, come to the microphone and speak and just give us a little thumbnail sketch of what their services will be, and not to make any promises, but
Yeah.
just to get as much information as possible.
Okay?
Good evening. My name is Dan Vinay with Priority Waste, Vice President of Municipal Sales. I'll just run through quickly
our numbers as they're presented, just so everybody understands, the price that we presented is the monthly price per unit at $1,354. Now it's $1,962 and the $1,662 for the two service condominiums and apartments. Included in our bid is to work with the township on the transition to recycling carts. That was a requirement to provide carts for recycling to the residents that don't have them. I would say in the area right now of Harrison Township, you're probably at 55 to 65% cart-based usage. What this will help is reduce a lot of that peripheral debris from those old totes or bins. And that's a greater commitment than, the competing bid. It shows, I think, 100 carts that they'd be willing to offer. We're willing to provide for the rest that are not included. That's a significant dollar value to your residents to upgrade their recycling program. The core services should remain mostly the same. As you see them today or as they're occurring, they'll remain the same. We're familiar with all of your roadways, with the streets. I know that there's one road that we have a unique situation with, and we have to service it with a different style of vehicle. And learning that over the last 8 months has been a benefit. I'm not going to sugarcoat that the transition was smooth for you. I'm not going to try and hide from that fact. I know that you, your staff in the offices here, our staff on the roadway, overcame a significant problem July 1st when we took over the fleet. And it was broadcast in the news that about 47% of the fleet had to be put down for safety purposes, that it was a tough decision that our leadership had to make to not operate unsafe vehicles to allow our people to come home every night. It was, again, a tough decision, but I think the right one. Towards the middle of October, we rolled out the portal for Ms. Middlestat, the deputy supervisor, to communicate right in line with our LDC, Matt Turner, who watches over the service. Over the last 3 to 4 months, which has been a more accurate snapshot of the service, we're averaging anywhere from 8 to 10 calls a week, which if you talk about 8,000 residents or 8,000 homes that we're servicing, 8 to 10 is not a significant number of complaints, but we're always looking for zero. Personally, I'm a goalie in a past life, and any goal that got behind me was a red light and a burn mark on my neck. So that's our mentality, is to get everybody's trash up every day and recycling up every day and compost every day. To highlight as well, the crews that we'll be servicing have been and will remain the same. We're looking at upgrading the fleet in here as we talk about that cart-based service, getting more automated vehicles as opposed to rear load. Those rear loads are more manual. You guys talked about getting your employees, your first responders back from injury quickly. We deal with that every day as they're on and off trucks in roadways, whether it be major or side roads. So we want to get into a more automated style of vehicle as necessary and as applicable. A couple of other things in our proposal was the bulk pickup. It wasn't very well defined, so there was some gray area for residents. And as we defined it in our proposal, as 5 large bulky items can be set out on your weekly collection. And a bulky item can be a set. If you talk about chairs, kitchen chairs can be a set. That's 1. We're not counting 4 chairs and the table is 5 items. It's 1 set. But the limitations on compost are not there. That's in the competing bid. You can put out whatever we all know fall yard waste, leaf waste can be quite dramatic with the township with so many trees. So we'll continue to pick up what's out on your during your compost season, early fall and or spring and fall season. But again, I've talked to a couple of you. I know that the transition was not easy on anybody. I appreciate everybody's leadership through it, patience and understanding that it was a situation we were not hopeful for. And then when we took over July 1st, our goal was to get our trucks back up to a level, safe operating level for our employees. Thank you.
Any questions for the bidder? No?
So I do have a question. So some of our condos or apartments, I guess, have just open pickup. So when I mean that, they're not in cans of any type. And it sounds like as part of your goal is to get to an automated pickup model, or will those continue? How will you handle it?
The good part about automated vehicles, they still have a manual aspect capability. So if it's a Corrado cam, which is our preferred automated vehicle, it has a front about 4-yard hopper in front of the truck that lifts up over top. Those can be manually loaded into. There's always going to be, because of the condos and townhouses, there is that component that we do have to have that manual side of service. I was talking more automated for the recycling because it's mainly carted only, so you don't have stuff outside of the cart. It's going to be inside of the cart. It can be picked up and dumped into the can or into if it's a side arm, it goes right into the.
And I know that there are some municipalities that have gone to a automated load only. Some of the streets in Harrison Township might make that a little bit more challenging. That may be someday how waste hauling services are provided, as the norm in a suburban area. But for now, the majority, I think the majority of our peers do not offer automated only services.
Correct. There's, in the Metro Detroit market, there's primarily Sterling Heights. They have a cart only. That's a transition that they made in May when they switched over to Priority. There's a couple of, in the north, Lapeer, Genesee County, and up in Saginaw. And then there's a few out west in Western Wayne. But in Macomb County primarily, it's what we call is Cart Plus or manual. So you have the requirement to use a cart, and you can have bags outside for no penalty. You can still get those picked up, or no cart at all, and it's all bags.
I do have to say, I really like the idea of the closed canisters on recycling. That's a massive pet peeve of mine. When I'm around the township, and even in my subdivision where I leave all the crap that blows out and ends up in the water and everything else, I just think that's such an important aspect to consider. I really, really, truly do.
I agree. We incorporated it in the base bid, that we would switch to those. I recognize that whatever carrier we use, based on our own personal experience with the move from bins to carts, Mr. Vinay mentioned Stephanie in my office. She plays that role. Sometimes there's folks who say, well, I'm concerned with this. I have a spot where I keep the bin under my Duratub. Well, you can still leave the bin in your Duratub, just take it out to the side of your house, dump it into the canister. But the real key is that, especially this time of the year, you walk out on trash day and there's cardboard boxes. There's, like some neighbors, I truly believe most neighbors are considerate, but some people just put it out. Maybe you put it out at night and it's nice and calm. The next morning, it's a windy day. And we're almost, while we're trying to recycle, we're almost littering our very own neighborhoods because we don't have enclosed carts for recycling. I really think if we're going to move to the next level, we need to have that recycling in the carts. So, I agree. Any other questions?
May I ask a
Yeah.
question?
Yeah.
Mr. Benet, and I would, to be fair to both, I would give you a second chance on this question if the other bidder gives a different answer than you, but I don't think we, on behalf of the township, asked how much for replacement carts. Do you recall putting that in your proposal?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember if it was in our cart in the tab, because there wasn't really a line item for
I
it.
think there was.
But it's something that we can, we worked with Shelby Township on the negotiation of a cart cost to keep it affordable for residents.
Okay.
Generally, our carts, which if you buy them at Home Depot or Lowe's, $150 to $160 is what you would pay at their store. At ours is, usually around $110 plus a delivery fee if it's, again, that's for an additional non-mandatory cart, additional cart that they would want to purchase from us. So it's a little bit better than store. We manage the warranty, we manage the repair and the replacements and the maintenance of them. But it's, a direct, or an industrial style of cart.
So repair and replacement of the carts is included in the cost?
Correct. Yeah, of our carts, yes.
Mhm.
And that would go with the recycling carts that would be passed out as well.
the recycling carts are passed out based on every customer, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I asked that question to Mr. Witt during the bid process because we don't really know how many would need them. We obviously don't want to spend money for spending money's sake. So we would develop with them and how and who needs a cart. Track who has received one. I know that Stephanie keeps a list, I believe, of who has received or requested one from the office. They may not want another cart just to have another cart. If we're talking about reuse, recycle, repurpose, and not just throwing something away into a landfill or a shredder, I think there's a way to do this, a pragmatic approach, where you get a survey out to residents that, do you need one? And then you track and record it, and then if there's any peripheral requests that come in, we can do, deliveries as needed. So we did a transition in Indiana to in a town called Zionsville, 64,000 homes, so similar size. About half of them already had a cart from the previous provider, and instead of us throwing them away, we put a sticker on them, and they're just going to use them. So we recorded which ones didn't request one, so we know throughout the term, if they do, they're eligible to receive one.
And I anticipate, this switch, the goal of switching to recycling carts versus bins is, we're not looking to hammer folks. We're looking to work with folks over a period of time. Some folks will be more receptive, some folks will be more resistant. But the goal of this was to, hopefully, certainly minimize the bins, hopefully eliminate those bins because of the fact, there was a time I didn't have recycling services. For the last 15 years, I had a bin. That was an improvement. The hopes now would be that we move to a cart and avoid some of that litter. We talked earlier about the April 12th Beautification Commission cleanup. You can just see the kinds of soft trash that just pile up, and on anywhere there's enough brush to hold it and the prevailing winds push it, we can do better. So, but I don't think it's it's an all or nothing immediate, draconian measure as much as it is over time persuading folks to switch over to those carts. Any other questions for the bidder?
How is the recycling addressed at the condominiums and the apartments? When I was through there, I just traveled through the ones off of North Point. I only seen a trash dumpster. How does that get handled, I guess, by both of you? You put another dumpster out there for recycle, or how is that handled?
Yeah, a good comparison would be when you talk about cart-based, would be Sterling Heights with their condominiums and apartments. Currently, we pick up what's out, if it's out, next to the dumpster in a cart or a bin. I don't believe there's many participants in the condominiums or apartments that currently recycle, but our recycle truck will go through to just see if anybody's using a bin or has a cart out. What has worked with Sterling Heights is going to the HOA president or the property manager and saying, how many active participants do you have in this community that wants to recycle? Get a gauge on the percentage. So if it's a 20 unit and there's a 40% participation expectancy, you get them a bank of carts next to the dumpster that stack up near one another, and then we just service them on their service day. So again, it keeps it closed. I would imagine a lot of the residents are not recycling because of the community style of pickup in some of them, and they may not know that it's an access. So there could definitely be a retraining period.
And to kind of follow up on that question, there are certainly condo properties where they contract for and receive two services, and they put out either bags or cans, and they put out recycling in the bins, or if they have a cart. So there are definitely condo locations where they receive those two services. Again, it doesn't force anyone to recycle, but that service is available. And I know my mother's in a condo community, and I see a majority of folks participating by putting that out that way. Any other questions or comments? All right.
So what was the requirement on the bond? Was there a performance bond requirement?
So the way that we proposed the bid was, in our 15 years, we've had really two arrangements. One was hold money for 90 days without a bond. The other was require the service provider to provide a bond. We offered for either of those options within this bid proposal.
I did read both of those, so.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right?
Okay.
Okay, if there's no other questions for the one bidder, we would invite the other bidder up if that's the will of the board.
Good evening.
This guy?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. I'm not
Okay.
sure of the sound. We might have turned it down due to the interference,
We're
but
finally home.
yeah.
I got Mr. Tringali here, Denise Tringali, Dominic Tringali, my wife Nancy, and my sister-in-law Susie. They're part of the team here. And we're happy to be home because we love Harrison Township, and you know, I lived here, and these guys still live here. But Mr. Huth and Verkest and the council, thank you for inviting us. We really appreciate it. We like this opportunity. And as I see, this is our team, okay? It's about low qualified bidder. It's not about the bottom line, small bidder. A lot of people promise you things. We've been in business for a combined service for 150 years, okay? He's been doing it a little bit. So I only got 30 years. She has 40-something. Yes, we can't talk about it. But we have the experience. We've been in this township for a long time. We did a great job, and someone low bid it, got the job. Now we're the low qualified bidder. We would like to continue service with you. We answer the phones Monday through Friday from 9 to 5. It's not an 800 number. It's not on hold or anything. We talk to you. We can correct the problem. My cell phone number is on each card that I passed out to you guys. If there's ever a problem, you call me. I'm available 24 hours a day, and if I don't answer, I do call back. Our goal is to pick it up. We don't leave it at the curb. We pick it up. So I think that's kind of important. Our trucks, we have these trucks. We just bought brand-new trucks for this bid. They're 20-yarders. They weigh about 20,000, 22,000? 25,000 pounds. And so I think this is great for these roads because when people are talking about a Corrado truck coming down here and all this semi-automated or fully automated, a fully automated truck weighs like 60,000 pounds. And you got to dump it overhead and sideways, and I think that's just destroying these roads. And you have a lot of dirt roads here and back downs, and these trucks the turning radius is unbelievable. So I think that says something for it too. So we have brand new trucks ready to go right now. Hey, what else? Any questions anyone has for me?
So
Come on.
Yeah.
Let him talk.
Well, I'm Dominic Tringali. Hi. How are you doing? Anyways, you're talking about these automated trucks. They're great. As long as you put everything in the can and the truck picks it up and it dumps it. And that's all it can do. It can't take care of a flood. It can't take care of a windstorm. It can't take care of anything except put it in a can and raise it in the air and dump it. That's all it can do. Now, a rear loader, we can pick up anything. And I'm not saying it's an advantage. You know, like when you go golfing and you play, just keep it simple, stupid, not your swing. So the same thing picking up garbage. Keep it simple. I wish I had one kind of truck for the whole fleet. I have front loaders. I have side loaders. I wish they were all rear loaders. That I can do any job, anytime, for anybody. It can be a flood. It could be a rain, so anything. We'll go out and pick it up. There was a flood back in 4 or 5 years ago, 9/11 or something. I don't know. We got bombarded in Highland Park, and I mean we
August
were
of 2014.
yeah, we got blasted. But if we had if everything had to be in a container, we'd still be sitting there. And you know what I mean? And if you're worried about an automated truck and a dumpster, that'll keep the city neat. No, it won't. It's up to the resident to put the stuff in the damn cart. We pull up the houses now, and we'll open the cart, and there'll be one damn can in the bottom. That's how, I mean, you know, I don't know. And you have to you go through the motion to dump it. But the automated part doesn't do a thing. Now, when you say automated up in the air, you're going to be messing around with tree branches and wires. And a lot of moving parts and a lot of maintenance. And I know cities that have it now. I see the cans laying in the street, blowing down the road. The guys, it's hard to hire help, and you know, the more complicated equipment you get, you know, you need better help. You're not going to get it right now. It's hard. But anyway, it's a hard job. But if we get the job, we'll do it. Maybe they'll do it. You know, I mean, I've been working at Troy since 1968, one city, still there. And they've had plenty of time to get rid of us. But since we worked here, you've had 3 haulers. One went to jail, the other one went belly up, and now you got Priority, and they got their trucks with the sticker on it over the mud or the dirt or whatever I see, and they're nasty. And I'm not lying. That's the way they are. And I don't know. Are they blowing smoke? I don't know. But you know, you get what you pay for. It's what happens at the end. You know, we live here. I'll do the job. Always did. And you know, I'm still doing it. I don't know how much longer, but I'll keep cracking at it. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a question or two. Yeah. So I believe, as Mr. Olgiati pointed out, and as we included in the spec, the move from bins to carts is really, it's not necessarily about the service, it's about the trash just blowing out of those bins.
Well, that's what I mean. It's a problem with, you could get, everybody give them a cart. I go down the street now and I look at the houses and they got all kind of carts. People won't break their stuff down and put it in the cart.
For sure, yeah.
We flip the lid open and there's
just
nothing in
breaking
it.
down boxes is something that drives me nuts when I
Well,
see
they
them.
don't do it.
Well, a full, chewy box just rolling down the street on a windy day this time of the year.
Me, yeah.
My concern, though, is that I know a big part of our goal, no matter what we do tonight, we're making changes. We're going to have folks who say, well, we used to get chipping. Well, that was something that the prior provider or the prior bidder tossed in 10 years ago, and it's just not going to happen. So that's a change. We know that the price, there was no way we were going to get near on that price. But one of the changes that not everybody's going to go along with right away was the move to the recycle carts. And I am a bit concerned about the up to 100 recycle carts annually at no cost for a couple reasons. One is, if the goal is a long-term relationship, 5 years, let's get rid of this trash blowing down the streets. I'm struggling with how I'm going to be able to say to someone, hey, you can only, you get a cart, Larry, because you got in time, but sorry, Dean, you don't get a cart because we ran out of the 100, so you got to start paying for the cart, but we're going to require it. I feel like there needs to be a move. It doesn't have to be in the next, 7 days when this contract is awarded, but we need to get everybody off of those bins and back to those carts so that we avoid this just trash blowing down the street. So the base bid did require the move to those carts, and I'm a little concerned about the limit of up to 100 cycle carts.
Well, I don't know how many carts they need out there, but when I drive down the street, I see carts all over the place.
There is quite a few carts, and the reality is I don't know that number either. I'm just concerned that I don't necessarily want to pick the winner. I don't have a cart currently, right? But I believe when we went with Rizzo, that prior, 10 years ago, I think they offered carts. Some people took them, some people didn't.
Yes.
I like right where I put my bin, I'd make it, I actually have 2 bins. I put all the light crap on the bottom, put that on top with the heavy stuff on top so it doesn't blow away. It works for me. But I'm willing to give that up and switch to those bins to avoid that.
Let me tell you a story here. When I first started hauling in the township, I had a cart. I would give them a 95-gallon cart, and I sold them a sticker that I put on the cart that paid for the whole year.
Mm-hmm. I still have mine.
And you know what? They put it in the cart.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I would pick up.
Yeah.
But you see, right now, people have 5 and 6 carts, and they don't break anything down, they just make a mess.
Yeah, well, we
And the
talked
messes-
about that. We know that there are folks who, I remember throughout our history, and frankly, I can't tell you if it was with Tringali or it was one of the other contractors, but we had a fellow doing a lawn service. And one of the haulers, whoever the hauler was, it doesn't matter, said, hey, this guy's got 8 carts full of grass every week. This is clearly not the intent. And so we went to that person and said, listen, that's not the service you're paying for. So I feel like we have a history of working with
You
the
know what?
waste hauler to get rid of those people who are abusing the system. My concern, though, is the 64-gallon recycle carts, putting a limit on them. Unfortunately, I wish I knew how many people needed them. But my concern is that if it's in excess of 100, I'm picking winners and losers. And so I'll be very frank, I'm looking for a commitment that whoever we choose is going to work with us to make sure that everybody has a recycle cart to avoid the litter associated with things blowing out of those bins. And, I feel like that's something that's the one change we made in this contract from prior years. We had bins, and the one change was to move to recycling carts to avoid what we experienced. And again, some people are aloof, some people don't care, some people take a great effort, they break down boxes, but we're just trying to change that behavior on the part of our residents.
Well, think about it, I don't know how you're gonna do it, it's just a matter of code enforcement, I guess.
Yeah, it really is, but I'm genuinely
You can't go
concerned about
down the
limiting.
street and fight with every house.
No, and as I said earlier, I think that transition to recycle carts from the recycle bins, it's gonna take time. There's, some people are receptive, some people take a little longer. As I mentioned, Stephanie in my office.
All right, well.
We'll talk with folks and, try to persuade them, well, use your bin and dump it into the cart. But the key here is that once it leaves the house, if it's sitting in a cart, over the last 15 years, I think we've seen enough of that surface litter that we are prepared to make that change. And we're looking for that partnership with whoever the waste hauler is to make sure that we can supply those carts to every resident. We'll work with them to try to make sure that there isn't fraud, but we don't want to have a scenario where we say, hey, if you'd have called me yesterday, I could have got you a cart, but we're flat out of free carts, so it's going to cost you this much. That's a genuine concern to me as that service provider.
You
Well,
won't get people to switch over if there's a cost associated with those cards.
I
They
truly
will not
believe
do
that.
it. I mean, we see them complaining about things on water meter reading devices and everything else.
Sure.
I mean, they're just not gonna do it. We have to have the opportunity for them to get the carts and educate them a little bit at a time to get more and more people to switch over.
I truly believe that.
That's just my own personal feeling. It's a big part of my thought pattern.
Yeah. So that is a concern, I will tell you.
I get it.
Limiting that to 100 carts, again, I have no problem, it's the golden rule stuff. If I was in your shoes, I wouldn't want to be the cart Santa Claus, and I would work with whoever we have to do that regardless of how it's done. But truly, the goal is to get more of our residents to utilize carts instead of the
Well,
bins.
how many carts are you gonna allow per home? I've seen one.
Oh, for sure, one. But the problem is that, like, for
Most of them
example,
have.
I contracted with Tringali before we went to a single waste hauler. I have the can that came with the stickers on it. I think probably the stickers are gone by now, but I still have that
Oh,
can.
you
I'm
know,
a little
I
more
mean-
frugal, but for me, I've never made that transition from the bin to a cart. But I really believe that's a big part of this opportunity. We only get this window once every 5 or 10 years. That's the one change that we talked about in
Well-
this bid spec.
Think about the weight of the trucks and what's good for the roads and up in the trees and the wires too. And everything's gotta be in the cart. It can't be laying on the ground.
No, for sure.
Everything.
Yeah.
So, what?
Mr. Burkett, can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, well, we could, well, I'll tell you that. When I drive through the city and I set 100 limit, I see everybody with a cart.
Sure.
Now, if a person calls me and wants a cart and they already got a cart,
Yeah, a little bit different there.
Well, what do
I'm
you
talking
do?
specifically about these recycle carts.
that's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about. They
yeah.
have them, a lot of them.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
got 5 carts. Some people got 5, 6, 7 carts I see when I drive through.
For sure, and we're gonna do our best to avoid that. The problem I have is if,
No, I'm saying, you can put a sticker on one of those carts. There's 2 at the curb and 4 by the house, you know what I mean?
okay,
You could put a recycling sticker on that, on one of those.
oh, yeah, for sure, understood.
Instead of buying them a $100 cart. I mean, we have to,
Yeah, again, let me just say, let me make it as clear as I can, and I'm a big golden rule guy. I am not looking for, cart Christmas. What I'm saying is I'm gonna have a hard time saying to the 101st person that comes in, you don't get a cart because you weren't here. That's a concern to me. For someone that says, hey, I saw the information coming from the township, I understand that the purpose of this is to transition, and at some point, we're gonna draw the line, and we're not picking up that bin anymore because we need to make that change. There's gonna be a finite number of people who are gonna fight like anything else. But for those people who are receptive, my concern is that I'm probably gonna encounter more than 100 of those when we say at some point, we're not picking up bins anymore.
How many do you think you need?
I wish I knew, if I knew.
Well, I threw a number at me. You didn't throw a number at me.
I can't, I couldn't, if I knew, I would tell you that number.
What, 200 be it? I don't know, I don't want to give carts to people that already have carts.
Let me tell you, whoever gets this
I have
contract,
fr- I got-
whether it's an unlimited number or a finite number, I'm gonna do the best I can to avoid people taking advantage. 'Cause when all is said and done, it's, keep in mind, the very nature of a single waste hauler, I still have that guy who owns a shop, who drives his pickup truck to work every day and says, I already have a dumpster. I don't need a single waste hauler. I have no problem looking at that guy and say, you know what? You are right. The switch to a single waste hauler, you lost on that deal. But for every one of those guys I can point to 500 people who are paying, even now, a fraction of what they paid 15 years ago. So we're never gonna hit bat 1,000 on this, but I am genuinely concerned with that number. And Mr. Hoot, did you have something you wanted to say?
I was just gonna ask, Mr. Z or Mr. Tringali, on the situation with the 95-gallon cart toter, do you provide those replacements? I know that.
Well, we have them. We have them all the time, and we have 65-gallon carts. It's not, like I said, I'll give a cart to this person that needs a cart. But if they already have a cart, I don't want to do it.
I agree with that. I agree 100%.
So, when I say.
And repurposing a cart makes great sense.
When you tell me brush over 3 inches, you don't have to haul, I say 2 inches. But you got to have a rule, because if it gets to be 4 inches, I'm going to leave it.
Absolutely.
But it's only a guideline. I'm not going to leave it exact, get my tape measure out. Okay, I'll get shot at the curb. If it says 100 pounds, it's got to be.
That's my question. My question is this. Somebody that calls and says, for aesthetic reasons, I want a new 95-gallon toter. I've had this other one on there, out there. I need a new one. I'll purchase it, and I understand that the haulers charge for that. Do you have a fee for that?
Yeah, we have them.
How much is your fee?
Well, what do they cost us? We sell them and deliver them for $116. But, if I'm working with the township and, we can sell them at cost to do a replacement.
Yeah, we've had scenarios where maybe one is broken.
Cost on that card is around $60. 67?
we'll work with you.
I'll always work with you, I'm not.
Always to work with you.
I'm not going to tell you to pound sand.
No, I know that, and again, and let me just say, I've had at this point, you guys were maybe less than a year into that initial contract when I became supervisor. So I've worked with 4 waste haulers. I have 0 reservations working with Tringali. Let me just say that. I am comfortable in saying that across that 15 years, over 14 years, I'm comfortable saying that the least amount of complaints I had was when Tringali provided services.
At least you got a good
and
memory.
I don't have a problem paying for the service. I do have a concern with not being able to roll out the implementation of carts for recycling across the township. I will work with whoever does it, but a year from now, we're not going to be picking up bins. I'm not going to have trash blowing around. We can do better than that, and how we get there is a key part.
Gotta be in the can.
Yeah, we need recycle bins. The recycle carts, I'm sorry. We did put it in our base bid. that they would be provided at no cost. And so I am concerned, I don't know what else I can say. I am concerned about the 100 recycle carts annually for no cost.
Oh, well, yeah, we'll do more than that, but, you know, it's gotta be, I don't wanna give thousands away.
We'd ask that you approach the podium so anybody listening could hear.
Go ahead.
I don't even know at this point how the sound is working, but.
It's not.
Yeah.
Is there a number besides the 100 that you had in mind that might be, or are you just looking for unlimited?
Yeah, unlimited is a terrible, so the short answer is it's definitely not unlimited.
Right.
The problem is that neither of us know that, right? And we're talking about a 5-year, potentially a 10-year relationship with this contract. So I wish I knew that number. They have been provided to some folks, and some folks have not taken that opportunity. The difference is that we're talking about switching to a scenario where over the next, I don't know, plus or minus 6 to 12 months, we're going to gradually tell folks at some point, we're going to work with whoever that waste hauler is to say,
Well,
at some point,
this way.
if there's a bin out there, we're going to tell you to leave it there. And when that person calls, we're going to say, listen, we need you to switch to a cart because the bin isn't working. And work with whoever that service provider is to eliminate that because it's leading to waste. It's going to take time. It's not, I don't think we're ripping through, I don't know, we have a total of something like 80 some, it was in there, 70 some,
All right.
80 some 100 stops.
Do you think 100 carts per year
Hang on a
would be
minute.
reasonable?
That's what it's limited. No, I
So-
think 100 carts is too low.
No, is that per year though?
That's per year.
If I gave you the 500 carts all the first year, would that make it through the first year? Like, I don't think they'd be second year asking for carts or the
Yeah,
third year.
and the tough
You know,
thing
it's
is
a
I.
number for
Yeah.
1 year.
Right.
How many carts you want? 1,000? I'd go for that.
Yeah, and that's the whole point is I just don't know what that looks like. I am not prepared, to ask you to refuse service to anyone, but, initially there's gonna be, hey, listen, this is the movement we're making. There's gonna be a certain number of people who embrace that change. Over a period of time, it's gonna take more and more effort. Let's just say this, think about this. If a year from now, I don't know how many people are using bins, but if a year from now, we eliminate 80% of those bins and we're dealing with carts, we moved in the right direction. At some point, we're gonna just say, hey, we're not doing this, but I don't know what that looks like. It's trying to change people's opinions over time. You had a thought?
Yeah, I have Dominic, did you say you didn't have a problem with 1,000 carts?
Well, I'm just saying, if I gave them a number, 100
Right.
carts a year.
Which is 500.
So, okay, just a number. It
Yeah.
could be,
Right.
it could
You're
be
suggesting
200 if
doubling
you twisted my arm. But if I gave them to you all the first year, then the rest of the years, everybody
Yeah.
got a cart.
And let me just say this, the notion of them spread out over the course of a period of time,
1,000 a year.
I see this as something we want to try to, I see this as kind of front-loaded, something we want to implement in the beginning, try to persuade people over a period of time. We're not talking about giving them out. I see this as more carts up front, less over a period of time, because,
All right.
let me just say, for the majority of my, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'd say for the majority of my life, I did not wheel a cart out to the street. For a majority of my life, I carried bags and I set them there, and you tried to do it in the morning so
What if-
raccoons wouldn't tear them apart. Now we use carts. I
What
feel
if-
like recycling is this.
What
word
if
that
they
makes
end
sense.
recycling?
What's that?
What if they just put a stop to it? Because
Well,
it's getting very hard
let me tell you for
to
sure,
even deliver the recycled material to a cycling facility.
there's arguments to be made
I-
for that, but I
you
think
know,
at this point, we're probably not
I'll just tell
limiting
you a
recycling.
story. We used to get paid for the recycling.
Yeah,
And then that changed where we dumped it for free.
yep,
Now we pay to dump it.
yeah.
And you know what the price is?
It's higher than just waste.
It's
I
the
get it.
same price as garbage.
Yeah.
$42.50 a ton.
Yeah, I understand.
And
Can I
the
just say
recycle
really
center
quickly?
is right next door to the dump.
Yep.
So where does, and if the guys throw it in with the garbage, there is no recycling.
Sure.
Can I just really
Is it
quickly
a feel-good thing or is it really getting recycled?
Can I just quickly
I'm
really
just
try to
saying, it's
clarify
something that
my
might
thoughts about
just
these carts?
end.
Okay, I just really want to, because I think we're getting hung up on numbers, and I think we're getting so far off of what we really need to start thinking about. Only thing that I want to avoid is the fact that if we have 100 a year, and those are given to the people that have bins, to replace the bins.
You gotta trade in a bin
I
for a
want the
cart.
next, exactly. I'm not expecting to get a fourth bin at my property so I can put extra shit and not break it down. But if I have a bin and I call to get a cart replaced, and all 100 go out the first year, and the next 25 people that want a bin replaced have to pay for that bin for the cart.
That's a
I
problem.
want you guys to be able to work with us in terms of getting those people the most bins we can possibly get to recycle the most trash properly in this community.
That's
my
it.
thing.
So
I'm not-
that's what
let's
I
not
would
get hung
do.
up on numbers. I mean,
That's what I'm
all.
trying to do. I don't want to give everybody a cart that
And that's-
doesn't need it.
Correct,
and
agreed.
We're all business people. We're all small business people. I understand where you're coming from, but the whole fact of the matter is
Well-
we have a gentleman he's always talking about blight in our community. There's people always cleaning up on the roadways and everything else. The best way that we can, to avoid as much blight as we possibly can and garbage blowing around. I see it blowing into the lake. It drives me crazy. We have a beautiful asset there that we're just polluting the creek.
And with people's goodwill to recycle, not only are they polluting, it's not really, right, it's, we need to eliminate that. That's, we're going backwards with our current method of recycling.
And
with some
it's
folks.
education on our part to our community. It's not going to happen overnight, but I don't want the dead end thrown up in front of these people if they want to go from a bin to a cart.
Correct.
And they'd have to pay, that's all that I'm simply trying to say.
that's
Really
not
simple.
it.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
that's me breaking it down as simple as I possibly can.
work with you. We're willing to work with you.
Yeah, I'll just say this, that Tringali will distribute up to 100 carts at no cost. That's a, I mean, to be as honest with you, I can't approve this contract with that language in that contract. Yeah, that's a showstopper for me. And I'm not trying to be squirrely, I'm just trying to be honest. Like, I can't have, I gotta be able to figure that out. I'll work with whoever it is, but I don't want to tell the 101st person they were too late because they didn't call on Thursday.
Bob, while you're working on that, I have a question. Is compost pickup from April to October?
I'm sorry?
Compost pickup April to October?
Yes.
Okay, I want to make sure of that, okay.
I do have a,
Supposed to be December.
If you take that number out, I promise I'll work with whoever, but I can't, I'm just not comfortable with that limit.
Unlimited. But I'm only gonna.
Not unlimited.
The goal is to eliminate bins. The goal is to eliminate, we're not starting a side business to sell carts back to somebody else.
So if I recall, and of course my memory lately is not as good as it used to be, but when I recall, we had the Rizzo contract. Rizzo set up a time limit. I believe it was a year or 9 months, and we were going to bins. Part of that.
They offered them voluntarily.
You had to have a bin.
Yep.
So they from the day the contract was executed or sometime before, to a date and a close, you had the opportunity to contact Rizzo to get a refuse and/or recycled bin.
Cart.
Console,
Recycled cart.
whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
After that, they were charged. So I don't know what that number was, but I can tell you from the time we invoked the contract till 9 or 10 months later, there were a lot of red bins out there. So anyone who needed a bin was able to call and get a bin dropped off.
Yep.
So I guess either contract, I guess I would be looking for the same type of thing.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with some sort of plan where we put a limit on how long it takes to make this transition. And if residents just, refuse, we talk about mailers, we're trying to change behaviors. At some point, it isn't, I'm not worried about years 3, 4, 5. I'm worried about the beginning.
Right.
Implementing a cart
Right,
system for
because here's the
recycling.
whole thing is if people who want to recycle may not be recycling because of those bins or maybe because they don't have a bin.
Correct, could be.
So if they get offered a cart
Yep.
console, they may start recycling.
Yeah, and there's no doubt, there are plenty of recycled carts already in position
There are some.
in the township.
Yes, I don't know what that number.
Yeah.
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
Ken,
Well, hang on a second, let me just see, go ahead, Brian.
excuse me.
I'm looking at the pricing breakdown, I guess, for both companies. It's to be price per pickup for 1 year. The price was $280.80 for Tringali. And I had to do the math because you only had monthly. 1962 times 12, if I did my little calculator here is good, I came up with 235.44. Is that the correct number? Okay, if I take the $5.40, multiply it by 52, I come up with 259.20, not 280.80. Did you calculate it? Did you put something else in there besides? Because am I looking at it wrong? It's $5.40 per week.
Times
Times
52.
52 weeks is
I got 280.80.
540.
5.4 times 52, 280.80.
Why did I come up with, oh, you know what I did?
Used your contractor's calculator.
No, I apologize.
No,
So,
that's right.
so that number is correct, the 280. I apologize. I don't know what I did to, I was coming up with the delta between the monthly,
Yeah.
the monthly between the two bidders, and I did the math wrong. I apologize.
Yeah, no problem.
So that's the right numbers. 235.44, 280.
235.44 year one, 280.80 level across the contract. So understand that within the agenda item, what the numbers I listed were the 5-year cost. Right? Is that, right? So Tringale's cost is level across the 5 years as proposed.
Yep.
Priority escalates as the contract progresses.
Okay.
Okay?
Mr. Burkett?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think we need some certainty on the terms of the cost or amount of the carts. It's a request for proposal, it's not a request for bid, so you're able to negotiate, you're able to have discussions with people here, it's totally appropriate. Goes on with waste contracts all across Metro Detroit.
Okay.
But we need to know for certain what it is. I think we understand what Priority's offering. I just think we need to have some certainty here with respect to Tringale, instead of they'll work with us. And I know they want to work with us. If you could give us a number and tell us what it is, I would ask the board if they went with you, to incorporate the number in the motion, so we know where we're at.
And this is for replacement of carts?
If it sounds like it's a program they're suggesting, you can only get a cart if you hand us in your old bin. We don't want to replace a cart with a cart.
That's not,
Well,
I wouldn't agree with that, because you have people who don't have bins that would like to recycle.
Oh, I see.
They need to have the same
They don't have-
opportunity as anyone who has a bin.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that would be a good
Yeah,
trade-off,
you're
Mr.
right, Mr. Tim, I forgot. How about this, it would be somebody that doesn't have a bin.
That's for
doesn't have a
sure.
cart, You get a cart.
I'll
Correct.
supply a cart to anyone who needs it, but I don't want to supply a cart to someone that says, oh, I think I need a new one, and they
No.
really don't need a,
Agreed.
they just want a
Understood.
new one.
Yep.
There are people out there like that.
Yep.
Oh, I want a new one.
So the goal
Or
would be
they
to
can put a
supply a
sticker on
cart to
it.
anyone who does not have a cart.
Or if they have a lot of carts, they can put a sticker on the
For
cart.
sure, we can.
I just want to give a cart where you have to. I would give them one.
Yep.
That's all.
Okay.
That would be it, and we'll go from, I don't know.
One more.
We'll see what happens, or you guys
Yeah.
can decide.
Yeah.
We've got comments from Mr. Tringale's outfit on the situation. Priorities here too, they should have the same opportunity to answer the same question.
Yeah, absolutely. Understood.
Not gonna argue.
Right. So,
Go ahead. Nothing.
should we're comfortable in saying we would make a motion to go with hauler X based on the assumption, based on the requirement that they provide recycling carts to anyone who does not currently have a recycling cart. Is that what your recommendation?
That could be one of the things where some of the board members may say, I don't care about carts, I want the lower price.
Understood, but your point is we could incorporate that in the motion as a means of taking action.
Subject to the contract being done.
Sure.
with The attorney and the hauler.
Well, and I want to say that it was, I think the proposed motion that I had, because I recognize that there's always things that come up, so I apologize here. I'm going backward through this agenda item. But I believe what I had proposed was to contract with Blank for waste hauling services for the next 5 years, and to direct the supervisor and township attorney to execute a contract with the firm for these services. So
Yeah, that's fine.
ultimately, the board, the direction we're asking from the board is to authorize some of those details, but, so we would say the supply of a recycling cart to anyone that doesn't have them could be a part of that motion.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, is that it? Okay. Thank you. All right. And I don't know if there was a desire to redirect?
Well, just to be, is it okay if I,
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you go through this, you just did this recent, I mean, we haven't talked about this for 10 years.
we were together last week, actually, last
Tuesday.
So, Mr. Benet, you heard the comments from Tringali, and what they're going to supply at no charge to the residents, a recycled cart to anybody, I think 65 gallon.
64, I think it is.
What's priority's response or position on that?
Yeah, as we understood, the bid was to provide anybody that did not have a recycling cart, that needed a recycling cart, to work with the supervisor to determine the best means to do so, with the goal to go to universal cart-based recycling probably within the year. I don't think that there was anything hard set. So we know roughly how many that looks like. At 500 or 1,000, you probably would still take years.
So is there a charge to the resident for that cart?
Nope. Again, working with the township supervisor and how best to do this. However, we don't want to do a mass rollout because there are people that have them, but I know that there's more than 2,000 that probably need a cart.
Okay. So I would say my view of that for the board to analyze this, I think both companies are apples to apples in terms of the recycled carts position.
I'm comfortable with that. Any other questions for, I mean, not to say that we couldn't, but any other questions for any of the bidders at this time? Any other comments or discussion, board?
Well, just to clarify, now that I got my math right, Tringali is $280.80 per year, and priority is $235.44. Is that the correct numbers
For year one.
for year one? That's
Right.
correct, though, right?
I'd have to go back and look, so let me jump back at the previous tab. 2116.
And also to note, there's a $10,000, $10,833.33 credit that goes back onto the township to be made whole in the $130,000 requirement for us to reimburse. So there's $125,000 that we had to give back to the township for the cost of administration fees and that was described, plus $5,000 for the
Hardship.
Hardship. So $130,000. So again, you take $10,833.33 off of every bill every month. So your fixed cost is even less.
Our rule.
We give you the same thing.
Yeah, that was a requirement of the bid. Yep. So 253.92 in year one is the number that you had, Mr. Badkins?
Well, there was a 5 in it, but.
253,
1962 times 12 for the first year.
that's what I had. 1962 times 12. I came up with 235.44.
That's what I got. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
must have hit a number wrong.
Woo.
Yep. 235, wait a minute.
I can't be sausage fingering this thing that much, so.
Well, I wouldn't count on that. All right, let's see.
I hate doing math. I wish that it would have been calculated already.
Yeah, so the 1244.88 over the 5 years. I came up with $1,244.88.
Yep.
Cents over the 5-year contract. Because we're talking about, we have a year one bid, right? But we're truly looking at a minimum 5-year contract with a 5-year extension. So to talk about years 6 through 10, I felt was a little deceptive, but, so we're talking $1,244.88 for 5 years with priority waste, $1,404 over 5 years with Tringali Sanitation, but 160, little less than $160.
It sounds
Over
like
a
we're
5-year
apples
period.
to apples with the carts, so.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
So based on that, based on my experience in working with both haulers, my recommendation is to place this business with Tringali Sanitation. I was hopeful, considering, if I had $1 for every time someone called or was in our office since July 1, I could probably pay the difference in this contract. And I recognize that transition was difficult, and prior to the transition, I took the opportunity to tour the priority waste facility. And initially, I can honestly say, not only was I impressed with their approach to how they did the waste hauling, but I spent a lot of time explaining to folks, I think repeating a line that Mr. Allen said to me. He said, kind of like we talk about logistics. We talk about, we have this notion that, UPS and Amazon has refined, we acknowledge that they utilize technology and their routes are, all figured out. And so the way it was explained to me was, well, Priority's kind of taking that same approach, incorporating technology. It's just the opposite. Instead of dropping off a package, we're picking up trash. And I've repeated that, probably not in the last 60 or 90 days, but certainly from July 1 through the end of 2024. But the reality is it did not get any better during that time. And based on my own personal experience working with both haulers, based on comments from residents, I don't think a less than $160 over 5 years is worth going with. We've had experience with both haulers, and that this isn't meant to slander either one, but our experience with Tringali over a 5-year period was far superior to our experience with Priority over the last roughly 9 months. So from my experience in fielding calls and dealing with residents coming in, asking for resolutions to problems, this is a no-brainer to me.
I have respect for both bids. The one thing that keeps popping out in my head, my big thing, obviously, let's not get back on it, was the recycle bins. I'm comfortable with that, the way that went right now. The one thing that keeps popping at me when looking at both these bids is I like the idea of the 3 new trucks in the township. Priority, I understand they've had problems with equipment and things along that line. Their equipment does not always look like it's up to spec, in all honesty. I just don't like some of the things that I see. I like the idea of smaller trucks, new trucks in the township. The only other question that I have is the pickup schedule going to remain the same with these 3 trucks?
Yeah, so I don't know that we defined a schedule. What I did learn is based on the size of our community, like when I talked to various waste haulers, let's just say you're let's just say you're a community of 1,000 stops. You don't need a whole week to service 1,000 homes. We happen to be kind of sized in a range where we're kind of a Monday through Friday community. We're a 5-day community. You can take one truck and say, I'm going to send that truck out on the road, and from Monday morning till Friday afternoon, I can cover the entire township. I would hope that we could maintain the same schedule, but if we need to, that wouldn't be something that I would necessarily make a decision on. We've seen that with, really at this point, 4 haulers. They've all managed to service a Monday. Most everybody says, I see the same guy in the back of that truck every week, and yeah, he's on my street on Wednesday. Oh, he's on my street.
And I was going to mention that too. I know they've had a little bit of growing pains at the very, very beginning, but I know that a lot of residents tell me they like their drivers. They like their guys to pick up their garbage. The Priority guys are good. I mean, it's the same people.
Same
all
people
the time.
that probably been there since it was, some of them, same since.
And that's a compliment to those people from Priority. You have good people that work these trucks in this community, so thank you for that.
Yep, understood. All right. Any other discussion, or is there a motion?
I would just like to add that it was very difficult when they transitioned from GFL to Priority. And I know the frustration of this board and of a lot of the residents. It was very, very trying. And I guess I think a lot of people take garbage for granted. You wheel it out in the morning, and when I come home from work, it's empty. When it's not, it creates a major problem. we had a conversation with the gentleman that came in from Priority at the time, and I think that they missed a couple steps during the equipment evaluation. Now, that being said, for the past, since that has gotten straightened out, I've not put anything out to the road that hasn't been picked up. That's just the fact of the point. And my point is you talk about if it's not in a bin, I have not seen that at all.
No.
Compliments to the teams that are doing it now and whichever way this ends up going forward. But I wanted to that was very frustrating, and I know your phone was ringing off the hook. And, it was not from lack of effort from your team, but I think it was a big undertaking that maybe somebody wasn't prepared for, so. But I wanted to say this, the past couple months it's gotten back to where I was used to seeing it before, so.
Okay. Any other discussion, or is there a motion?
Is this, are you looking for a motion? So all of this stuff that was talked about this evening,
Yep, so,
how is that?
If you look at the suggested motion, there's a blank. If you filled in the provider, I would help you at the end of the motion.
I'll make a motion to contract with Tringali Sanitation for waste hauling services for the next 5 years, and to direct the supervisor and the township attorney to execute a contract with this firm for these services. In addition,
It contains, the contract that contains the language to replace the recycle bins for those residents that don't already have a recycle.
to provide, I would say provide instead of replace, provide recycling
That's a better
cart.
word. Provide a recycle bin for those residents that do not have a recycle bin.
Yep. And I might even say properties instead of residents. Well, there's 3 residents in my home. I think it's semantics, but I was thinking to residences, so. Is that clear?
Yep.
Good with that, Mr. Brado?
yeah. I'm
Is
good
there
with that.
support?
I support that.
Okay. Got a motion by Mr. Brado, a support by Mrs. Brown. Further discussion, board members? No? Okay, we've had a fair amount of discussion. We'll open the floor for public comment.
C. William Bardell, 28-year resident, clean cut, do-gooder boy next door. I just want to make a comment about these free recycling bins. Many years ago, when we switched over to that company with the red bins, I had a brown bin and a little red bin that I bought with my house 28 years ago. And I didn't want to be wasteful, so I said, no, I don't want these other orange bins. So I guess a lot of people, when we went with this other company that had the orange bins, we went from people that had like 1 can to like people that had 8 cans on the side of their house. We had 8 cans. So my question is, what are the checks and balances of people that already have a bin? How are we going to... What's the limit? What's the limit in a residential area on how many of these dumpsters we're going to have? Because, I mean, I don't keep mine on the side of the house. I went and got, when mine finally broke and cracked because they threw it on the ground and busted the wheel, I fixed the wheel myself and I polyurethane caulked it and everything else, put washers on it, and then when that thing was done, I cut it up with a receptacle saw, and I figured it wasn't recyclable, so I threw it in the garbage dumpster. So in my new dumpster, I got a 2/3 scale dumpster from a smaller one from Home Depot for like $69. It's a 2/3 scale. I'm wondering, why can't we have these dumpsters be 2/3 scale, smaller, just a little bit smaller than the recycle containers, then the recyclers be about just a slight bit smaller, maybe a 3/8 scale, maybe a 2/3 scale main dumpster, and then a 3/8 scale recycle bin. Why are they so big? I don't know how much processed food we got to eat, because I did use the red bin, and I admit, guilty as charged. My crap blew down the street, and I picked up everyone else's garbage in pizza boxes. And after that time, I packed it. And my thing about the new recycle bin is I'm going to figure out where I'm going to put my motorcycle and my snow blower. I don't know where I'm going to put it because I'm definitely not going to put it outside. I just don't think it's romantic for me. But again, after we went with those red bins, I saw from one dumpster on the side of their house to 4, 3, 8, 6. I mean, so where's the limit? Where's the checks and balances? How is this going to be checked? Okay? So that's why I didn't want another dumpster. I don't want more garbage at my house. So, but like I said, I think it's a good idea so the stuff don't blow down the street. And, but good luck with it. And, I like my 2/3 scale dumpster myself. I like my little 2 scale. It's a little black dumpster I got at Home Depot. Works perfect, But good luck and thank you for listening.
Thank you. Seeing no other public comment, we'll close the floor for public comment and move back to board comment. Any further board comment, board members? Hearing none, we have a motion by Mr. Brado with support by Mrs. Brown to contract with Tringali Sanitation for waste hauling services for the next 5 years and to direct the supervisor and township attorney to execute a contract with this firm for these services, including supplying a recycling cart to residences that do not currently have one. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, board, and thank you to everybody who came and helped us walk through this. Okay. All right, next on the agenda is architectural services, item G2. Let's see. Board members, we've been working with Seth Pachansky with Daniels and Zermatt Architects on the plans for the upgrade to the township office campus. The initial site plan and budget has been completed. The next step is schematic design and design development. Attached is a proposal from the architect for these services at a township cost not to exceed $83,039. Excuse me, I recommend approval of this proposal. Initially, we had been given a proposal that included services all the way through to the bidding. In conversation with the library, it appears that the library may want to proceed with construction for this project different than they did for the work that was done in this room. They utilized a construction, I think it was a construction manager, and Mr. Badkins, you may know this better than me, but instead of going out for a bid for the project, they went out individually. They utilized the Allen Group to manage the whole project and go out for individual bids. Library had some concerns with that, so I said at this point, instead of making that decision, let's just talk about the steps necessary to get through schematic design and design development so we know what we want to bid. And that's basically what this phase is. And I will let the board know that if we do decide to go forward with this, there are costs associated with generating final drawings. But in addition, there's probably going to be some cost proposals coming forward for maybe some surveying of the property, soil borings. There might be some other things. So for example, right now, you come in to just build a house. We need some testing on the soil to make sure that we don't have a need for spread footings or anything like that. We're probably going to need that same thing. So there are probably some, 4 and 5 figure, low 5 figure costs that might follow this. But for now, the not to exceed price for the work that we're looking to have done is $83,000. Questions, discussion? Is there a motion?
I guess I got a question. It says attachment HTPL proposal AE services 250, 315. Is that number listed somewhere on this proposal?
I think that was what the file was saved at. Does that make sense? Is that what you're asking? So literally, the name of the file that you see, that 4-page document was, when I attached it, was saved on my computer as
As-
that name.
Okay, understood. Okay.
HTTP, AE service.
Okay. And I did talk to Mr. Huth before the meeting on the terms and conditions of the agreement that they sent over to us. I don't know if he got into detail on it, allocation of risk, indemnification, dispute resolution, and specifically hazardous material. Basically, what it says in their agreement is if we run into any hazardous material, that they may stop and until we take care of the problem. Now, the issue, they call it suspend performance of our services. So I think everybody knows when that building was built, and chances are there's asbestos in it. So I think that statement is something, I understand how we handle hazardous material as a township. I don't like the option that they can just sort of throw their hands up in the air. The last one is ownership of documents. All documents produced by the architect under this agreement shall remain the property of the architect and may be used by the owner for development of this project. So I don't like the may. They can, if they feel like it, give it to us, and I didn't get that feeling. But again, it's contract language, and it only really matters when something goes wrong.
So may is permissive. May is not, may doesn't imply that they have the right to, we may use those documents.
And
We don't
maybe-
shall use them because we don't know if we need them, but we may use them. The may would be permissive.
Ownership of the document should read, any document that they produce is ours. Period.
Well, this is the same language we used for the last contract because we struck with the written consent of the architect from the previous contract.
Well, this is a lot bigger, right? I mean, this is a big number that we're talking about. My point is if I hire an architect to do work for me, and he says, well, I said I may give them to you or I may not, no, you're going to give them to me.
But that does not say I may not give them. It says that they may be used.
Meaning, I think the intention was, just because they drew it doesn't mean we have to build it. We may decide to build it.
May change.
Yeah. It isn't at, so the difference would be with the written consent of the architect being struck, they don't have the option to allow us to use those documents. We may use them if we wish. I don't read that document as saying that they have the right to prohibit us from utilization. And then going back to the hazardous materials, no part of the scope of the work that we're approving involves the current administration building right now. They're talking about engineering, designing the addition, the revisions to the engineering building, and the common space between us and the library. Eventually, we, the township, once all of this work is done, will likely demolish the administration building, but no scope of the work that we're talking about here involves the administration building. So keep in mind that the engineering building was redeveloped, was revamped in 95, I think. So the likelihood of any questionable materials in that structure is low. The library is the contract with them, so if there's anything here, we're not approving work in this building. We're not approving work in the administration building.
Mr. Burkess, can I
Yeah,
ask?
yeah.
I'm comfortable with the indemnification and the dispute resolution language. I agree with Mr. Badkins that the allocation of risk provision is fairly aggressive. Essentially means that if they draw it and there's a problem because of the way they drew it, then they can only be held responsible for the amount of the contract, nothing more. Ideally, that wouldn't be there. I just don't know if they would do it if it wasn't there. So maybe the board motion is along the lines to strike the allocation of risk provision if the contractor will go along with it or something along those lines. It's very aggressive.
Well, but I mean, ultimately, so point being that you're like, okay, well, if something goes wrong, you can only come after us for the amount of the contract. In essence, that's what the language says. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's what you read? And I'm just questioning like what the likelihood of liability beyond that is. It would require litigation no matter what. I mean,
Just another client of mine just built a $9 million facility, and the first winter, the pipe froze on Christmas Eve because they have a bad design, flooded the whole library, 6 months old room. If that provision isn't in there, it might cause a problem.
Yeah, and they have PL insurance, right?
sure, I would
That
think
is-
so.
That is part of their, so if you struck that, that situation would fall onto their PL insurance.
I hear you. I hear
That
you.
would not be an issue.
So a potential motion would be to move forward with this, and to direct the attorney, right, to, we propose striking of that language. It is possible that they may be uncomfortable with that or propose alternative language. Clearly, if we can't come to that agreement, we're back here talking about it in 2 weeks with some alternative. Well, I think actually 3 weeks, yeah, but you got the idea.
Well, I'll
So-
make that motion
Okay.
to approve the engineering proposal of 83,039.
Yep.
Striking the allocation of risk in their terms and conditions.
Okay, I like that. Motion by Mr. Badkins, is there support?
Support the motion.
Okay, discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Board. Got that. Next, item G3, Spalding D. Decker is the engineering firm that is designing the pedestrian bridge over the spillway at Jefferson. Recent changes were made to the project in order to satisfy the requirements of multiple agencies. Attached is a cost proposal from Spalding D. Decker for these changes. I recommend approval of these engineering changes for the spillway pedestrian bridge at a cost not to exceed $33,500.
So moved.
All right. Is there support?
I'll support.
Oh, motion by Mr. Olgiati.
Yep.
Yeah, so a couple of different things. Initially, we had talked about one style of crossing. There's a couple of challenges with where we place the bridge in relation to Jefferson itself. If we move further down the spillway and further away from Jefferson Avenue, we encounter conditions on the banks of the spillway that would make the bridge easier. The problem is at some point, if I push the bridge far enough away from the street, I'm coming down Jefferson on a 10-foot path, I make a left and I gotta go, I'll exaggerate, I gotta go a mile out of my way, I'm probably just gonna hang a right and go right across Jefferson, which defeated the purpose. So when we discussed that placement, we can only get so close to the existing vehicle bridge because of power lines, but we see a scenario where we could probably place a support. It would really be on the north, I guess you'd say north side of the spillway, the side closest to, say, Eddie's Drive-In, where there's a little island there, but there's some additional work that we need to do associated with that, flow analysis, and things like that. These are not to exceed. They still bill us based on hourly rates. And keep in mind that I think their base bid was $165. We had bids, the next bid was over $200,000. The next bid after that was $324. So, I still think we're well under, with these revisions, what we were proposed by other providers. Any questions?
What's the timeframe on the beginning of construction for this?
Well, so one of the things so the short answer is I couldn't give you a number. A little bit longer answer is we encountered, one of the challenges is easement acquisition. I know we initially approved a cost for that. Because these are federal funds flowing through the state, I can't tell you if they're state funds or federal funds, but I do believe the initial source, of some of the funds are federal, but they have to go through the MDOT process. If you have to acquire an easement, and that easement, the cost of that easement is beyond a certain amount, you have to go through a pretty formal process. So while we've had some initial discussions, like we just came up with, understanding that we may be able to trade some land, but even just to do it, you have to have a very detailed, appraisal done, has to be by a MDOT approved firm. Once that appraisal is completed, you have to give that appraisal to another MDOT approved firm to review that, to say, yes, we agree. Really, the bottom line is the federal government doesn't want to spend money on a project and have, one of us go and talk, swindle some poor old lady out of her land to get it done, and, right, so that's.
Yeah, I just want to make sure there was no time frame in terms of using those funds. That's
No, we're good. There's opportunities for extensions, but at this point, I've been given a timeline of at least 2 months to complete the appraisal process in order to make an offer and propose any potential land swap or other acquisition of the land needed to put in the path. So, there is a very formal, letting process. So, MDOT, you give them drawings by this date, it goes to bid on this date, and you can't even award the contract till this. So I kind of have a feeling, we'd be lucky to be looking at late 2025, and possibly early 26.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Is there, I see this as a not to exceed, is there a way to get the total from them after they're complete with additional engineering?
We do approve, so far, so yes, number one. Number two, we do approve these prices, but there's multiple sources for funding for this. One big bucket of money was, I think, 1.098 million. I'm going by memory, which isn't good.
Well, I can't do math.
Yeah, that's okay. That came from the Ralph C. Wilson Foundation, and that money can cover engineering, kind of no strings attached. So to date, all of those bills have flown to my office, but ultimately to Advancing Macomb, which received that 1.098 million. So I think we've paid one bill for the engineering so far, so it should flow to this board unless it's paid for by the grant funds. It's public now. I mean, I can show you every invoice we've received to date. I can send them to you.
No, I just see an additional permitting of $7,500, and if it comes in $4,000, they charge you $4,000, right?
Correct,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, we pay as you go. And my experience with Spalding has been, they've been kind of like, we'd rather give you this price because this is what it could be. We hope that it's less than that.
Sort of a little worst case type. Right?
Correct,
Okay.
absolutely. So, yeah, I don't anticipate, these aren't costs where I'm coming in and they're saying we used 100% of the money. That hasn't been my experience to date.
Okay, good enough.
So this is kind of to make sure the project moves forward. And really where some of this permitting gets a little wonky is the spillway itself and flow analysis, and is this environmental, is this Army Corps, where's that line? So, any other discussion, questions? Hearing none, we have a motion by Mr. Tominello with support by Mr. Olgiati to approve this not to exceed cost. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Board. Item G4, which was originally item G1, is regarding hiring a bus driver. One of our recently hired bus drivers has decided this position was not for her. She's given her notice. This leaves the senior center and shuttle services short one driver. Kurt Gerst is the applicant, has many years of driving experience, is a CDL licensed driver, would make a great addition to our team. I recommend that we hire Kurt as a CDL licensed driver for the senior shuttle service, subject to drug screening. I believe he's already completed that drug screening. So looking for a motion to hire Kurt Gerst as a CDL licensed driver for the shuttle service.
I'll make that motion.
All right, is there support?
Support.
All right. Discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next on our agenda is public comments. We'll open up the floor for public comments. They can be about any subject that you'd like. We ask that you try to limit those to 5 minutes in length.
C. William Bardell, 28-year resident, clean cut, do-gooder, boy next door, clean up, fix up, people helping people. I just want to tell everybody, please check out Save Lake St. Clair, stay up to date on everything. There's some reading material for you there. And I want to make a little comment about recycling. I know, I believe it's Waste Management, they opened a new recycling center. And my question is, what checks and balances do we have with our trash hauler to actually know that our recycling is being recycled? I often, when I'm cleaning up my yogurt containers and everything else, and using all my soap and hot water, hot water, and cleaning them out, and to recycle them, I often wonder, is that going to be in a third world country with a little baby playing in the garbage? Because that's what happens. I know recycling sounds romantic, and I'm a tree hugger. And I care about the environment. But that's the checks and balances I think we need to look at, to make sure that this waste hauler does indeed recycle this stuff and show some invoices of where he brought it. I don't know if it's in your peripheral or whatever. The other thing I want to talk about is, like I said, when we went from that first waste hauler, when I moved here 28 years ago, and we went to that outfit that gave everybody 2 free dumpsters, those red ones or those orange ones or whatever they were, that's all you saw over the township. They were all over the place. You had, instead of one dumpster on the side of their house, they had 4, they had 3. It was a big party. It was a field day. Is there a way we can limit the number of these things? You can put 100 in your garage if you want to, but is there a way we can make a number? Let's say you can have 2 on the side of your house instead of 10, because I see it coming, and it's coming. There's always freeloaders that want free stuff. They're not going to use it. They just want it. I'm not one of those guys. I don't want to be cutting my square footage out. Okay. Less is more for me. I don't want all the junk all over the house. I mean, I'm happy we got a place to drop off stuff 24/7 at 16 and Gratiot. Clean your closets out. You drop it off right over there, 24/7. But, less is more. So I know some people want a bunch of junk, and they want to get 100 of those recycle bins, and they like free stuff. But I think there should be a limit on how many of these things you can have on the side of your house. Maybe just one of your trash container and 1 recycle. That's it. Not 5. Because that's what we saw after this guy with the orange cans or red cans. I didn't want one at the time. I didn't want all the junk all over the place. So I hope we check into that. And Larry, I know you're on Planning Commission, and I know you guys coordinate with the board and make regulatory ordinances. So I hope we have a limit on how many of these dumpsters and recycle bins you can have on the side of your house. That's my 2 cents. Thank you for listening. Everyone have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other public comment, we'll close the floor for public comment, move back to board comment. We could look at a regulatory ordinance that limits the number of the dumpster cans on property. Regarding the recycling, our contract does say that the previous contracts required that the waste haulers provide regular recurring reports on that. We've never seen that. I've never seen that in 15 years. The most recent bid request was that the waste haulers are required to maintain those records and make them available, on demand. I can say that, trying to remember, I bet you it was fall last year. No, it was spring last year. So almost a year ago, we were invited and did, in fact, tour GFL's recycling facility. They acquired the old Pontiac Fiero plant, and it's a massive indoor facility. They have this gigantic machine or series of machines, conveyors, and it was pretty impressive to see. It's a single stream of waste. I mean, they have big cement area in the opening end of this plant, and they're just using equipment that you'd use to haul earth to just push the trash, everything combined. It goes through a device that crushes the glass, filters through like a screening thing, goes through several other things to use magnets and air to separate. And it's almost like a tree, if you will, where there's a central trunk and then individual branches where the various types of materials separate, to the point where they bring the materials out, they all put them in this kind of a box, if you will, and use hydraulics to compress them and band them. And, the system is efficient enough. We went from the very beginning where they're sorting things and pulling out everything you can possibly imagine. I asked one of the guys, what was the weirdest thing that you saw come through the recycling stream? And he said a deer. Like someone literally put a deer in the recycling. And you're like, what the heck is that? It got to the point where there's aluminum cans, there's steel, and kind of one of the neat takeaways was the type of plastic that is used for laundry detergent, those big jugs that you might imagine. When you'd walk by that part of this recycling center, like it smelled good. It smelled like laundry detergent. I mean, it was that pronounced. So, that it is a massive operation. Not only, this was GFL, but other haulers bring their materials there. We don't specify in our contract where recycling has to go, but it has to be an approved facility. But many of the haulers do go to that facility in Pontiac. They bale the materials. Fellow with a high-low comes over and they stack them up, and they explain that they sit on the various streams of plastic, cardboard, steel, aluminum, and they watch market prices. So they might pile them up and store a whole area, and when the price comes up on a certain type of plastic, they might take it to market and sell it. So it's a pretty in-depth process. But it's not cost savings. It's saving a ton of stuff from going in landfills, but it's not a moneymaker by the time you take that much time to process it. So hopefully that answers the resident's question. Any other board comment? Hearing none, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support?
Support.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries, meeting adjourned. Thank you, board.